Hello, my name is Aubrey. I'm so glad you're here. Let's talk about my fall TBR. I am a fall girly through and through. I love fall. It's my favorite season. I love Halloween, the leaves changing, the colder weather, the sweaters and the blankets. And I swear every fall I just get in this like voracious reading mood, and I am in a voracious reading mood. So I have made quite quite an unreasonable TBR for the fall season. I guess let's just get into the books. There's a lot. And there's even books that I purposefully left off of this list because they're for secret projects. So I guess let's just get into it. Currently, as I'm filming this video, it's still August and it's 90 degrees outside. I'm definitely still feeling that like summer transitioning into fall, and so I have a couple of reads for this period of time. The first book I have is The God of the Woods by Liz Moore. This is the Book of the Month edition. I have recently decided to try out Book of the Month in my quest for non-SFF books, and I picked this one because it sounded really good. And this is a mystery story about a teenage girl who vanishes from her Adirondack summer camp, but this isn't the first time that a child of this particular family has vanished. In fact, the missing girl's older brother vanished 14 years ago, never to be found. So I think it's about like this particular family and community dynamics. I don't know, but it sounds really good and it's gotten a lot of like buzz and hype lately, so I'm excited to read it. It feels like the perfect sort of end of summer into fall type of read, and I hope that it's good. Next I have Bury Your Gaze by Chuck Tingle. It's in the mail on its way here. It didn't quite get here in time for this video. And this is about like a Hollywood writer for a hit TV show who is being forced to kill off one of his female leads because he's been writing this romance between the two of them, which is about to come to a head, but the network isn't happy, and either he has to scrap the romance altogether or he has to kill off one of these characters. This is like a horror thriller type novel. It sounds really good. And the audiobook is narrated by a bunch of other authors like T. Kingfisher and TJ Klune, which is really interesting. So this just sounds really interesting, and again, just like a perfect kind of end of summer read. And I'm really looking forward to it. Next up is Belladonna by Adeline Grace, and I put this on the list because the last book in the trilogy is coming out very, very soon. It's probably already out by the time this video is published, and I have been looking forward to this. It's like a YA sort of dark fantasy series about a girl who falls in love with death, I think. It's supposed to be romantic and gothic, and I know a lot of people really love this. I would like to read it for myself and see how I like it. Alright, next I have two books that were on my summer TBR, so I'm not going to linger on them too much since I've already talked about them. First, I have The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson Bennett, and this is sort of a Sherlock-esque fantasy story. I didn't get around to it this summer, but I am still really wanting to read it, and I hope to get to it this fall. It sounds really good. I've heard such good things about this, and I do still really want to read it, so it's on the fall TBR. And then I also have The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. Again, this has kind of been eluding me all year long, but I think a part of me was always saving it for fall. Like, it just feels kind of like a fallish type read. I really hope to get to this. I desperately want to read this, and I'm just really grateful that she decided to write us a standalone so we don't have to wait around for more books. Alright, and next up I have the Jacoby Quartet. These might be a little surprising because I unhauled these in my last unhaul, but a few of you in the comments changed my mind and I decided to hold on to them for a little bit longer, but I do want to actually read them, so I am committed to reading them this fall or else I have to get rid of them. These do sound really fun. The tagline on the first book is Sherlock Holmes crossed with Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which just sounds like a lot of fun to me. I really hope to get to it. Next up I have If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio, and this is like the classic dark academia book. I haven't read it and I would really like to. This is about a bunch of like elite snobby Shakespeare students who I think are all harboring like a deep dark secret. I have of course heard terrific things about this. I can't wait to read it. It just feels like the perfect fall read. Next, I have Dead Silence by S.A. Barnes, and this is a sci-fi horror, and it takes place on a ship in space where I think this like crew of people gets this distress signal, and when they go, it's a famous luxury space liner that had vanished over 20 years ago, and so they like board the ship, and I think very creepy things happen on the ship, and it just sounds really good. And I know that once we get closer to Halloween, I'm really gonna be wanting some scarier stuff. This sounds perfect for that. And I also have A House with Good Bones by T. Kingfisher. I believe this came out last year. I think it's about this woman who ends up going home to see her mother and discovering that her mother is like kind of being haunted. I'm not totally sure, but I do love T. Kingfisher, and I want to make sure that I'm staying on top of her releases because she has quite a big backlog that I would also like to get to. I don't want too many of her books piling up, you know? But I really, really enjoy her as an author, so I've been really looking forward to this. And I would also like to get to T. Kingfisher's newest release, which is Sorceress Comes to Call. This is a Goose Girl retelling. I have absolutely loved T. Kingfisher's fairy tale retellings. They're, you know, they're dark and creepy and witty, and so I'm really looking forward to this. I've heard great things. I need it in my hands today. Next, I have Wolf Song by TJ Klune, and this just feels like the perfect kind of series to get into during the fall season. It's like a paranormal werewolf romance series, and I believe that the fourth book just got released in these like pretty redesigned hardcovers. I am currently almost finished with The House in the Cerulean Sea, and I'm loving it, so I'm kind of jonesing for another TJ Klune book to read afterwards. And I don't know, this series just feels like something that I would sort of hunker down with and just binge read. Sorry, my camera battery died. Next up, I have The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sangu Mandana, and this is like a cozy witchy fantasy novel about a woman who I think gets discovered online as being a real witch and gets invited to this house to like teach other young witches. You know, I think it's just kind of like a cozy romance with like a little bit of magic, and it sounds so sweet, and I have really been wanting to read this, and so hopefully this fall season I will finally get to it. This next one probably should have gone in my like end of summer into fall category. It's Spells for Forgetting by Adrienne Young. This is kind of a, I don't know if it's like magical realism, but I think it's sort of a more literary fantasy type book. And it's about this like really sleepy island when this girl's boyfriend is accused of murdering her best friend. And that boyfriend sort of flees the island until 14 years later he comes back to bury his mother's ashes, and I think it's about sort of uncovering the mystery of what really happened, but also this island is sort of magical and steeped in folklore. Once August returns, strange happenings begin. And yeah, I don't know, it just sounds like a nice, cozy, sleepy mystery with some magic. This just sounds like a really good read for like exactly right now. Alright, next up I have a book that I have had on my TBR for a very long time. It's Night Film by Marisha Pessel. This is a like murder mystery thriller type of book. We're following this investigative journalist who's looking into the death of this like young, beautiful woman who happens to be the daughter of a legendary reclusive cult horror film director, a man who hasn't been seen in public for more than 30 years. And so I think it's about sort of like uncovering this family and their family secrets, and it's kind of a mixed media novel. Like, not totally, but, you know, there's like random stuff sprinkled throughout here. I know a lot of people really love this, and I am really in the mood for something like this. Hopefully I can finally get it off my TBR. I literally have had this so long, and I would love to have finally read it. Next, I have The Once and Future Witches by Alex E. Harrow. Actually, I have no idea what this is about. The Once and Future Witches is a powerful tale of defiance, sisterhood, and the right to vote. It sounds like some of it is like historical and some of it is modern, and maybe we're switching back and forth. I don't know, but I'm always in the mood for witchy books around this time of year. I know this one is decently popular. I know a lot of people really like Alex E. Harrow, and I would like to give this one a try. Next, I have The Atlas Six by Olivia Blake, and this trilogy also finished up this year, I think, and I kind of feel like I need to read this now or never. The final book got very mixed reviews, and I'm intrigued by it. I feel like usually that would really turn me off, but the vitriol that I've seen in some of those comments is fascinating to me, and I don't know, I kind of want to know. I would like to give this a try, see if I can push through and read the whole trilogy. I'm sure you all know what this is. It's like dark academia, fantasy novel about magicians who are all kind of terrible people, and they're in this competition to get into a school, I think. So yeah, could be fun. All right, and then quickly, I just want to run through a couple of new release books that I'm really excited for and are on my TBR. So Thirsty by Rachel Harrison. This is kind of like a cheeky vampire novel. It's about a woman who is, you know, she's dreading her birthday. She's like kind of on the rocks with her husband. Her best friend takes her on this like fun birthday weekend. I think maybe they both get turned into vampires. I don't know. I haven't read it, but I would like to. The Bog Wife by Kay Chronister is another one, and this is just like kind of a creepy gothic horror novel about this family who lives on a cranberry bog, and with each generation they are supposed to sacrifice their family patriarch in exchange for the bog wife, which is like a woman made out of like the bog vegetation. Suddenly the bog is not holding up its end of the deal. I think it's kind of about family dynamics and secrets and weirdness, and it just, I don't know. This just really appeals to me for some reason, and I would like to read it. Model Home by Rivers Solomon is another one. This is kind of a haunted house take, but it sounds like it's also going to include a lot of discussion about race segregation and the American South. This is another horror. It sounds super fascinating to me. And I would also like to get to Don't Let the Forest In by C.G. Drews, and this is a YA sort of horror fantasy about these two boys, one of whom is a writer and the other is an illustrator, and we come to discover that the illustrator's illustrations are sort of coming to life, and they're these like monstrous things, and the two boys are having to fight off the monsters, and I think they're also falling in love. I'm not gonna lie, I really love this cover. But early reviews for it have also been really good, so I would like to read that one as well. If you want to know any more about those like recent releases, I did a much more in-depth video on more books coming out this fall season, so you can check that out. And yeah, that's my fall TBR. It's ridiculous, but there are no rules, right? Like, I don't have to stick to it. Let me know what you will be reading this fall. I would love to know. Please like this video if you liked it, and subscribe if you want to see more from me. I hope to see you next time. Bye!